Hello and welcome to this live that I'll be doing with Narayana Montufar. We will be discussing today Pluto entering Aquarius. So I will just wait for some people to join. Instagram is saying, hold on. Hello, astrology.com. Thank you. I'm going to add Narayana. Hi, Prashyara Aura. Hello, Angie. Thank you all for coming and joining the live. So today, Narayana and myself will be, hi Patrick, Narayana and myself will be, hello, all of our astrology soulmates. This is so fun. This is so exciting. So Narayana, that she is. So today we will be discussing Pluto entering Aquarius and just bringing a little bit of ease to what this transit is about. There's been a lot of fear, a lot of worry in anticipation for what this is about. So we just wanted to come on live to discuss it and to give you a little bit of a heads up what to expect, and put some of those fears at ease, because it's such a long transit. It's so hard to just say tomorrow the world is going to end, So let us grab Narayana and while we wait for Narayana to join us, I think I've popped in the collaboration request.
Hi!
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining me. This is such a hot topic right now, and it's I feel like in a lot of people's mind and a lot of their kind of experience of astrology, it feels like such a heavy topic. So I really wanted to come on here live to chat with a fellow astrologer to bring a little bit of perspective to what this is all about, and maybe bring a little bit more knowledge. There's already so much information out there, but I think some of it we got to be able to discern what resonates. So I think this will be like a good discussion to bring maybe a slightly different perspective. We'll see how the conversation goes. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
It's good to see you again. I'm good. Are you still enjoying your time in beautiful weather?
Yes, I'm still in Mexico. I must admit, it's a little distracting because my family's here. So it's really nice to spend time with them. I mean, I'm still working, but it's a little bit harder to keep tabs on things because, I want to be with them. But still really, really nice to be here with the warm weather.
Oh my gosh. I can only live through it vicariously through you as we are slowly crawling into spring in Canada right now.
I bet. Well, it can get really hot here though too. So right now I'm in air conditioning, but I try not to be in it all the time, but it can get intense.
Okay. I'll take that any day over like mountains of snow. But I bet it can get like sweltering hot, and there's nothing you can do. You can just sit in air conditioning. That's true as well. So hello for everybody who's joining us. McKay and Thornborough, hello, thank you for joining us. So should we get into the discussion? I have written down a few notes. I had a few like thoughts and ideas. So I think it would be, I don't know, maybe we can wait for a few more people, or maybe we can begin kind of maybe even just discussing the move from Capricorn to Aquarius. What are your thoughts on that? I've written down some things, but I'd love, to hear your perspective too.
Well, I prepared some stuff, but actually I was planning on maybe making a post out of this since I already did all the work. Maybe I'll invite you to collaborate.
Definitely.
But so this is the thing, right? I understand that the word Pluto, I understand that people are afraid, but I'm coming from a different perspective. I'm not an evolutionary astrologer. I like I was telling you before when we first met, I take from all types of astrology, whatever that works for me and my clients. But it's like, I think that yes, we have a very negative connotation on Pluto, and Pluto can be really intense. But I really do think that astrology helps in just being aware that you're going to have a Pluto transit. Why? Because Pluto is the planet of the subconscious mind. It was discovered when humans were ready for it, just like every other planet and asteroid. And it is the planet of psychoanalysis. When psychoanalysis was being discovered, it was exactly when we discovered Pluto. And so for all those that have their moon, sun, Mercury, Venus, or Mars in Aquarius, don't be afraid, because just the fact that you're aware that you're going to have a Pluto transit puts you on the other side. Just the fact that you will bring it forward instead of just acting on it from a subconscious perspective will change everything. I really, truly believe that. And so it reminds me of a quote that I have on my website, actually, of Carl Jung, which was one of the most eminent astrologers and psychoanalysts that we know, a therapist, however you want to call it, astronomer. I mean, he did a lot of things. But when you make the unconscious, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that literally, to me, really describes Pluto. And so bringing it from here to here really makes the difference. And anyway, I know you didn't ask that, but Pluto moving from Capricorn to Aquarius, I mean, I think it's a monumental change that no one alive has ever experienced, right? We pretty much
It's exciting, right?
It's exciting. I mean, it's an amazing time to be alive, and it's an amazing time to be an astrologer right now. I think that having the planet of these are the keywords that I wrote for Pluto, actually. So let me just go over those. Psychoanalysis, evolution, elimination, transformation, renewal, hidden riches, taboos, power, decay and rebirth, transmutation, jealousy, fearlessness, and radical change. So maybe this is a really positive list. Obviously, there's death and rebirth. But I do really think that having the planet that rules all this, power, transmutation, transformation, going from an earth sign to an air sign, it's going to be incredibly important for the next 20 years of our lives. I think it kicks off the age of Aquarius. Actually, yeah, you know, there's a lot of like misalignment in the astrology community, whether it's the age of Aquarius or it's not. I think it's the age of Aquarius because it is the constellation rising above in the spring equinox that we just had. That's how the ancients measured the ages back in the day, because they didn't have telescopes. So for the ancients, for the Egyptians, they thought that the constellation rising above the horizon was the age. And that's what's happening now. So I do think that we've had a ton of activations in Aquarius, right? Saturn-Uranus square from the past 2 years, the great conjunction that happened at 0 degrees of Aquarius in the winter solstice of 2020, and now this, right? I think it's going to be massive. I think it's going to accelerate change for the next 20 years. And we will see the highest vibration and the lowest vibration of both Pluto and Aquarius, right? It's a planet of black and white. There is no in between with Pluto. And I think it's exciting. I mean, I think it's exciting. I'm a Scorpio, and I have Pluto. Um, I have Pluto in a sextile with my moon, so
Mm-hmm.
um, I've seen the worst of Pluto in my life, but I've also seen the best.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in short my take on it.
I love it. I love hearing you talk. You bring so much like depth and mythology and history, and it's so beautiful to hear you talk about it. I knew this would be good. But yeah, absolutely. I think, you've said it in such a beautiful way, and you've covered so many different parts of what makes Pluto such a rich planet, and so much more than just, fear, and so much more than just death and rebirth. Like, there's so many various layers to it. And I think touching on the psychoanalysis is very, very interesting, because what is Aquarius but the mind? So Pluto moving into the sign that is ruled by the mind is going to be, I think, such an interesting transition from Pluto being in such a grounded, stable Earth sign as well. Um, so when I look at, Pluto entering Aquarius, I do see a lot of shifts from uh, people feeling much more empowered by their ideas, their own kind of investigations, their own kind of psychoanalysis, and I think that's going to definitely lead the charge in whatever changes that we see. Now, having said that, it's interesting because, as I was doing this research, and there's so much going around about Pluto in Aquarius. So I'm reading about Pluto, I'm reading about Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius sun. So, I'm reading it, but I also connect very intuitively to energies. So, I look at how different transits and different planets impact me personally and people in my life personally. And using that, I also, layer that onto the theories, because the theories, are theories. We do have to test them in real life as well, to validate them. Maybe that's my Aquarius nature, being like everything is a social experiment. But I do think that it's interesting that, a lot of people have so many different views and perspectives on what Aquarius is about, what Pluto in Aquarius is going to be about. And as a sign, I do feel as though Aquarius can somewhat be misunderstood, a little bit like Scorpio, a little bit like Plutonic energy. There is a feeling of it being misunderstood. People are like, it's about change and revolution, but it's also a fixed sign. It's also a very stubborn sign. So, we're looking at this idea of change and being open to change, but Aquarius doesn't budge easily. It really does dig its heels into the truth, into what it knows, into what it believes, into the cause that it's fighting for. So, in terms of the idea that change is going to happen radically, tomorrow everything is going to be different, or, this year things are going to skyrocket into a different direction, whatever it might be, I think we need to understand that in a fixed sign, Pluto moving into a fixed sign, and Pluto being a very, I would say, a hidden energy, right? It's not, once again, it's not obvious energy. I think I mentioned this in our Saturn in Pisces. So we've got a lot of like behind the scenes energy that is kind of unfolding this year. So it feels like things might start happening, but they're happening without us noticing, or they're happening slowly, or, the awareness is being brought up to our attention, and it's triggering that Aquarian curiosity. And that curiosity can spark change, but it takes time, because Aquarius needs to know. It needs to know what's authentic. It needs to follow its truth. So in that sense, I think that this will be a really powerful time of humanitarian change, change in terms of the team human, what it means to be human. How are we human? How are we connected to our communities, different people? How do we share in the energy between each other? You know, Aquarius is, to me, about community, and it's about sharing. More than it is necessarily about change, it's about connecting. And so, you know, it's kind of like what's mine is yours, but I'm going to lead us to the truth. You know, there is a little bit of that God complex with Aquarius. When we go into like the negative tendencies, there is that energy of being very stubborn in what they know is right for the collective, for humanity. So in that sense, you know, change might take some time. And that's why this is such a long transit, I think. You know, besides Pluto being, you know, taking its time through the zodiac, I think this one is in that 2-decade period, because it's moving through fixed signs. So fixed signs are going to be somewhat activated and triggered. And it's going to take time to get out of that fixed energy to see real big change. Not to say that's not going to happen, but, you know, we are moving with undercurrents here. Like, what is it called? Is it a riptide when you've got like the gentle water on the top and then there's like something whirring, like swirling beneath the surface, and it's just like creating like all kinds of energy and chaos, maybe, whatever it might be. So what is this comment?
I have been prepared, not aware, but ready. I've been training Tai Chi instructor to share in our senior community. This is supporting my completion and starting my classes.
Perfect. That's, you know, classes. We're looking at groups. We're looking at how you are contributing to groups, bringing people together. So I think, you know, this is going to be a really exciting transit for people that are ready to connect, ready to, you know, overcome the hurdles of the Capricorn energy, which kind of I think it put people on a soapbox. You know, Pluto and Capricorn felt like the period of time when certain people were idolized that maybe didn't need to be idolized. They were put on a bit of a platform. You know, their reputation was kind of blown up to some kind of proportion. I didn't get the dates, but you know, Instagram, did that begin during Pluto in Capricorn? I think
when Instagram,
it did, right?
I don't know, but
was it after 2008 or during, like, around that period of time?
I think that was later.
So I know that definitely it wasn't like in 2001. I don't feel like Instagram was around in, like, you know, when Pluto was in Sagittarius. I think it was in the Capricorn period when you're having this like inflated reputation, or this like magnetism of what it means to have luxury, to have status. And so I think that is going to kind of be crumbling a little bit as Pluto moves out of Capricorn. And we're kind of seeing that with TikTok coming around, and we're seeing the realness. People are making videos in their cars, lying on their couch, like in bed. We're seeing the realness. But, you know, the filters are coming back, and people are going crazy on TikTok again as well. But I do think that Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring the raw realness, and that's what people want to connect to. They want to connect to your authenticity. And I, you know, I think that's going to be one of the most exciting things. 2010, awesome. Look at that, 2010 Instagram. So that's, Pluto was in Capricorn at that time, and it just escalated to this like powerful era of like the highlight reel. You know, people striving for a certain level of success, luxury, need to have the things, the material things. So I think that individually is going to change as people's priorities and their desires. You know, Pluto, the desire kind of shifts towards more Aquarian things, you know, whether that is self-righteous Aquarius. You know, you got to kind of watch the balance here, whether you're moving towards the you know, which vibration of Aquarius you're leaning towards. And that's kind of perhaps the lesson of of what Pluto and Aquarius could lead to. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I always see, and I was just getting off a reading actually with a client that has a lot of Aquarian placements. And pretty much everyone that I have read for that has a lot of Aquarian placements or Aquarius rising or Aquarius sun, moon, or whatever, there's this, the way I see Aquarius is that the sign that sits in this really uncomfortable but exciting liminal space between the past and the future, because it is ruled by Saturn in traditional astrology, and it's fixed or fixed air, like you were saying, very set in its beliefs. But then it's ruled by Uranus, the planet of the future, and so there's always this like funny transition between both that is reflected in the life of that person in one way or another. Or there's always this resistance in to like moving to the future because of the fixed nature. And so that is one of the evolutionary lessons for Aquarius, and which is like this yearning, you know, to me it symbolizes these humanity's yearning for freedom and evolution,
Mm-hmm.
but it's resistance to change. And so that seems fascinating to me, and I think that we will be sitting in that space for a while. I mean, of course, we've already been seeing Pluto in Aquarius um, playing
Definitely.
in the news, like artificial
Oh, yeah.
intelligence. It's Pluto in Aquarius. I mean, it's been in the works for some years, but it didn't hit the news like it did this year while Pluto
Mm-hmm.
28 degrees of Capricorn. We always see the sign ahead, you know, being kind of like being already touched or starting, right? I
Yeah.
think that the highest vibration by far of Pluto in Aquarius will be activism, freedom, fighting for individualism, fighting for the right to be, right? Even like we're seeing in the United States, fighting for the right to be do whatever we want with our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see a revolution. This is something that will happen because let's be real, we're not gonna get our rights back with love and light. That's not gonna happen. We're gonna have to fight for it in that sense. But we have to do it together in order for us to be successful. So the highest vibration is like that, right? It's like working together, but also seeing how each one of us can gain from that, you know, our freedom, our choices. And I think the lowest vibration in Aquarius it's already been showing for some time, which is living in our heads constantly, living plugged into
Mm-hmm.
something, and being disconnected from our root chakra, you know, to really tune into the body and really just think that reason, right? That reason is the answer because it's not. We need to be, there needs to be a connection with the body, embodiment. You know, I think that now more than ever, we will have to unplug from our computers and our cell phones in order to like gain balance sometimes, you know? So, and I think we will experience both. We will have to, you know, with Pluto, you have to see the dark side to get to the light. And Pluto, you know, Pluto rules petroleum, things like that, you know, things that are under the surface, just like
Mm-hmm.
psychoanalysis. But I was seeing a post that Mark Jones, I don't know if you know him, he's an evolutionary astrologer. He reminded me that Pluto means hidden riches. So like
Mm-hmm.
petroleum, I'm just giving you an example. It's like the gold that sits below that you don't know it exists, but that you have to carve and that you have to search and you have to go to that dark space in order to mine. And so that's what Pluto is. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think we're already seeing that, you know, we're already seeing the shadow side of artificial intelligence. Like we're already talking about it, and Pluto hadn't even entered Aquarius. So it's going to be an exciting time for sure. Socially and
Yeah.
personally, like the fixed signs are up for change big time. So, and I'm all fixed. Well, at least a lot of my, yeah, so like Taurus,
Okay.
Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius.
Mm,
But I think because of the resistance of fixed signs, like you said, it's going to take a while to develop. I mean, to develop, even though we're already seeing little things here and there. Um, but it should be really interesting, you know?
yeah. And you know, that resistance to change, it's what I've experienced, you know, with fixed signs is that once you build up momentum, the wheel starts spinning. And then a fixed sign is unstoppable. You know, it kind of becomes this unstoppable force. So once you are comfortable going into those dark spaces or, you know, seeing what's going on beneath the surface, your pursuit to that, let's say, gold will be like, I don't know, a rock rolling down the hill, a boulder rolling down the hill, like it's an unstoppable, unshakable force. So, you know, I think there's that to the Pluto and Aquarius as well. It will be hard to kind of get through that initial barrier and maybe the next few barriers beyond that. But after that, I think that the ball will really start to roll and catch momentum. What I like that you mentioned as well was the social change and the humanitarian impact. So, you know, obviously Aquarius is known as the humanitarian sign, and there's lots of astrologers, everyone's talking about how the last time when Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the French Revolution and we had the American Revolution. So, you know, we do see that clearly in astrology and history. What I will say to that, though, what I find interesting with the combination of Pluto and Aquarius is that as we enter, as we are present in this transit today, here and now, I think it's very important for us to know why we are attaching ourselves to a cause, know why we are investing in the fight, in the cause, because with Pluto and Aquarius, I think it's very easy to join the collective, join the group, join the revolution out of fear. The fear of needing to belong to something, needing to be part of something. You know, Aquarius thrives in like group settings, in connective settings where they get to share and you know, ideate together with other people. So that's why I'm doing this live with you.
No, and
As
to be honest,
Aquarius.
it could also like fall into fanaticism pretty easily. So I agree with you.
Exactly.
I agree
Yeah.
with you. We have to be careful with what we act on and what we join for sure, because fanaticism, you know, we will talk about it when we talk about the signs, but Pluto also brings obsession, right?
Exactly, exactly. Obsession, being possessed by, you know, this group think, you know, being kind of controlled in a way by the group mentality and by what the greater society or the greater group is doing, what they're fighting for without knowing what's actually happening behind the scenes. And, you know, I think that the Aquarius energy definitely will have the curiosity or bring the curiosity to help us question a lot. You know, Aquarius energy loves to question. It loves to challenge. It loves to, you know why. You know, if Aquarius was summed up in one word, it would be but why? Why? So I think that I can attest to that. So I think that in that sense, I think Aquarius energy will have enough sensibility to question, but because Pluto is such a strong undercurrent, there might be the tendency to get swept up, you know, get swept up in the rally and get swept up in the riot and the revolution and not really know why. So I think it'll be really important to use your discernment through the next 20 years as you're seeing things unfold. As I said, I don't think it's going to be tomorrow. Everybody's going to be up in arms, but over the next, you know, 2 decades to kind of discern, why am I fighting this fight? Am I fighting the good fight, or do I just need a sense of belonging? Because, maybe technology will be isolating. Maybe technology will create that divide or the feeling of possession. You can't control your mind anymore because something outside of you, this phone, this website, this, I don't know, whatever.
No,
Honestly, I don't know how
yeah.
Aquarius is associated to technology, because no Aquarius that I know, including myself, is tech savvy.
Really? Well, my husband
Absolutely.
is in Aquarius, and he's very tech savvy. I don't know what I would do with
Okay. I'm the
him.
outlier. Got it.
Yeah. Actually, I know a lot of people that have Venus, especially Venus in Aquarius, and are in the tech industry. But
Okay.
you were talking about the American Revolution and the French Revolution, and France was just last week. The
Exactly.
streets
Yeah.
were packed because
Mm-hmm.
they passed a law without being voted, right? So there are certain things. I also don't think a revolution is going to be the same. I mean, just think about how long ago was that. I think the revolution will take place online also,
Could be.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm very
Yeah.
techie, but I also do want to show my experience that Aquarius, that Pluto, it's not always really bad. If you get into the mindset of victimhood,
Mm.
you get carried away by it very easily because you obsess over it. But sorry, I'm getting off topic. But what were you
No, no.
saying? Like, I attended a free master class of a teacher that I really love. Divine Harmony is her name, and she was saying that the shadow side of Aquarius could also be mind manipulation, but at a huge scale. Going along what you were saying,
Well,
like.
Pluto is
Mhm,
manipulation, right?
mhm, mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Which happens through the media or the internet. But I feel like that's been happening
Yeah.
already, you know,
Yeah.
sort of in a way. So we saw that starting really intensely a couple of years ago. So that will probably, the fake news and all of that. I
Mm-hmm.
attribute that a little bit more to Neptune in Pisces, but
Yeah.
I think it might play with Pluto in Aquarius really well. So you have to be very careful with what you share, with what you
Mm-hmm.
believe in, with what you comment on, like
Yeah.
discernment. Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Being controlled by technology, or somehow technology controlling you, somehow your digital footprint being a factor that determines, certain freedoms that you might have. But, getting out of that negative and dark space, because I think we could go down as far as the well goes. I I do think, as well as the that aspect that we've just kind of talked about, I think that I think you had mentioned this. Aquarius is also power in numbers.
Oh
It's
yeah.
power in numbers, and knowing that there is power in numbers. Knowing that you yourself can't do it all. Maybe you think you can, but your combined energy, your combined, contribution with other people can overthrow,
Oh yeah.
like, anything, can overthrow literally anything. The power in numbers is a indisputable force. And I think that's something that maybe we'll see towards the later parts or the middle parts of the transit, but I'm kind of excited about
I
that because
think power
I
with the
get really
I,
excited by group
yeah,
energy.
like power to the people. That's kind of like
Exactly.
how a lot of people are saying that, and I'm sure it will. You know, um, I'm excited too, and to be honest, I have my part of fortune in Aquarius,
Oh,
um,
this will be a
in the
good time for you.
10th house, and I mean, I see myself as someone who does community work because to me this is community work, right? But
Mhm.
I've been definitely thinking about the ways on how I can get involved in things that I care about, things that I like, the environment or women's rights. I am excited about that by far, but Iran
Exactly,
is one
exactly.
example. Yes, the
Yeah,
Iranian.
the Iran Revolution, and even all the things that were going on, the protests and everything that was going on in the past 2 years that are associated to what we shall not speak about.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
we all
No.
know,
And
all
again,
of
because
those.
we've evolved, humanity has sort of evolved in many ways. Like I said, that revolution maybe and hopefully it won't be as crazy as it was before. It will be a little bit more sophisticated. Um,
Yeah.
you know how they said that the outer planets don't have falls or um, exaltations?
Mm.
Well, I think that some astrologers think that Pluto is exalted in Aquarius.
Oh,
That's what I've heard. I've
okay.
never
I
used
haven't heard that.
those, for outer planets, but you know how like Uranus is exalted in Scorpio? Well,
Hmm.
um, Pluto is supposed
Oh,
to be exalted in Aquarius. So,
I mean, let's see. Let's see what that means for all of us.
yeah,
But but yeah, I think, bringing up the Iran Revolution, so relevant because, it's freedom, it's rights, and it has to do with women and with their freedom and rights in a country that's kind of been suppressed, I
for
guess,
sure.
So
Oh,
it's
and
kind of kept in the dark what's been going on there a little bit. So
totally.
now we're kind of seeing it.
Oh, and you
So I
know
think,
what? Sorry for interrupting you, but
no,
I
no, no, go ahead.
can't. You were saying women, the water bearer, right? The water bearer that now is portrayed as a man, it used to be a woman.
The, the
The
what?
water bearer, of the
Oh,
constellation,
the water bearer.
it used to be a woman carrying the water. That's the
Yeah,
humanitarian energy of
yeah,
bringing water to the people, right?
yeah.
And in the tarot card, in the tarot deck, the star,
Mm,
I don't have it here, but in the tarot deck, the star, which is the
it's my draw.
Aquarian, it's a woman, and has the star. It's the
Yeah,
card of Aquarius.
yeah, yeah,
It's a woman
yeah.
with the water. So that's interesting, that we're talking about
Mhm.
women's rights, and the water bearer
Yeah.
used to be a woman before they turned it into a man.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. I think, yeah, definitely so interesting because the woman, not to say that either gender or any gender is superior, and I'm not definitely not saying that, but the woman represents creation, right? She creates life. So when you think about a female body being the water bearer, you're thinking of like a woman's body kind of pouring life into, creating life into the world
Mm-hmm.
because you birth children as women. So, that's kind of an interesting, um, yeah, an interesting correlation there between that water bearer, like pouring, sharing, creating into the world, and it being changed to a man. Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I also don't come from like what's better or what's not, but like I do want to bring that up to our attention because that is something that's coming up in a lot of in Iran, in the United States, in Mexico,
Mm,
where I am now.
yeah,
So that is going to be pronounced, I think, like women's rights and girls' rights and things like that.
yeah, yeah. It's going to be an interesting time period for sure. But having said that, it's a long time period. So it's really important to note that these things build up over time. Revolutions don't just happen
Oh
overnight.
no. No.
Big blackouts don't just happen overnight. Things are happening behind the scenes, under the current, that build up to change, that build up to the point where a fixed sign like Aquarius, a fixed body of energy like Pluto can't take it anymore. They reach the threshold, and that threshold is, they often do have a lot of patience. And I say that reluctantly because I know fixed signs are not necessarily known to have a lot of patience, but they stick it out.
Oh
They
yeah,
do stick it out. They have
they stick
staying
it out.
power,
Oh
and they
yeah.
will put up with it, and they'll be okay with it, and they will say, you know what? I believe in this. I believe in myself. I believe in this situation. I, whatever, for whatever reason, fixed signs stick it out until they hit the top of their limit. And, you know, the top pops off and there's your revolution. So
Yeah.
nothing happens overnight. It is a
Oh no.
slow burn to that point
It's
where you
very
see
slow.
people on the streets
Yeah.
and,
Well, because Pluto has an irregular orbit, right? It
mm-hmm,
spends different
mm-hmm,
time in a sign, and it was in Capricorn for 15 years, and it will be in Aquarius for 20 years. And then every time it goes retrograde, it's like Pluto is, if you were gonna, all the outer planets do that, but especially Pluto is like 5 steps back, 3 steps, and 5 steps forward, 3 steps
yeah,
back. And that's how, if you have any natal planet in Aquarius, that's how you're going to feel it. A very slow, psychological, under the
mm-hmm.
surface, very mental, very hidden in your dreams kind of energy that then it's going to play out in your material life.
And you may not even know.
Oh, no,
You may not even
no,
know that it's happening
no.
until you hit that threshold and you're like, that's it. That's it. It's done. We're on the streets or we're out or, you know, the lid's popped off. So that's the very interesting part, I think, about Pluto in Aquarius, where we're dealing with collective energy and we're dealing with groups and revolution and innovation. It's a slow burn to that point of change. Um, so let's see how it slowly trickles out and we reach that, you know, in different ways, in various ways.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know because I have Taurus at 4 degrees rising. So,
Oh, so square. I see, I see.
yeah.
You know, I have my sun in Aquarius, so I'll let you know if I survive.
Shall we start talking about the conjunctions to the planets?
Let's do that. So let's talk about perhaps we can look at the personal planets. I think those are the ones that people kind of resonate the most with. They're like, oh, it's going to hit my moon, my sun, my Venus, my, you know, Mercury. So perhaps we can cover those.
And
What do
I
you
just
think?
want to share my own personal story, and I won't take too long, but
Yeah, yeah.
just like, I'll let people know that sometimes Pluto is not that bad. It is the planet of power. And I have my midheaven at 25 degrees of Capricorn. And when Pluto went over my midheaven is when I got my book deal.
Wow, congratulations. That's
So it's
incredible.
not that bad, right? It kind of
Yeah, yeah.
elevated me in the sense that it made me an author, but it was because I was already working with Pluto, maybe without knowing it,
Mhm.
doing like a lot of spiritual work, doing like Reiki healing and doing tarot and doing all these things, right?
Mm,
Kind of led to that. And so, and I just wanted to say that because that is like how I truly believe that one can work with Pluto and work with its transformational energies, seeking,
mm,
because, at the end of the day, the archetypes of Pluto are the shaman, right?
mm,
The shaman, um, the transformer, the butterfly,
mhm,
things like
mm,
that.
yeah.
And so I just said that because like I've also seen people who like when Pluto trine their sun or something similar, they got really good jobs out of nowhere,
Yeah.
kind of like the boss of the boss the boss of the boss quit and all of a sudden they have a boss's job. Things like that
Yeah.
are just kind of crazy. And so I just wanted to say that my own personal story because it's not always negative. Like Pluto can really bump up a lot of things, like change things in a
Mhm.
positive way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it can be overnight success.
I
Um,
guess so. I mean, Pluto does rule power at the end of the day. So it's
yeah.
like, my story on the midheaven, that's like the role you play in society.
Mm. So can I ask, just with your story, did Pluto cross your midheaven just once? And do you have any aspects to your midheaven?
I'd actually crossed it twice
Mm-hmm.
because of the retrograde motion, and I thought I was going to get a second book deal the second time, and I didn't. But I'm working on that now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And any aspects to your midheaven?
I have Saturn trying my midheaven.
Fine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a positive aspect there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So,
nice.
because you know, sometimes when there's like a retrograde and there's a second, sometimes the second is stronger. In this case, it was the because Jupiter and Saturn were there. So,
amazing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I just wanted to say that to come from a place of like empowerment, you know, of like,
yes.
It is a planet that gives you an incredible amount of stamina to work towards something.
Yes, definitely. I think, you know, maybe we've kind of talked a lot about it being scary, but, you know, it is an energy. I think you mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but it is an energy that wants to show you, you know, the depth of what you hold within. And it, you know, it has to do that somehow, and it's going to do that whichever way that it can. And if you're ready for it, then it can be amazing. You know, you get a book deal, you've been working on something that's, you know, it's been your kind of your, I don't know, your creation that you're birthing into the world, essentially, the book that you're kind of is born into the world. But if you're not ready for it, as you said, I think you mentioned at the beginning, it's about awareness of the Pluto transit. So if you're not ready for it, then it will definitely make it happen, because it wants to show you that gold, the hidden treasure, the hidden riches that are there. And exactly. And in order for you to get to the hidden riches, you got to get through the dirt. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to, you know, I don't know, face all the worms and the snakes and whatever else is kind of in the dirt beneath the surface in order to get to the riches. But it's there in incredible, infinite amounts. So, you know, I think there's a lot of empowerment. There's a lot of power filled into Pluto and Pluto transits. But you've got to be aware of it. And
you have to get dirty.
And you got to get your hands dirty. Exactly. You got to get ready to grab a snake by the body.
Really like that. Pluto can show you your riches and your inner gold if you're willing to get dirty.
Yes. Yes. If you're willing to go there. Yeah. Yeah. And not be afraid. It's fearless, as you said. You know, it's fearless energy. So having the courage to sit in the adrenaline of that fear a little bit to get to the peace on the other side. So, okay, let's begin with the planets, shall we?
Okay, yeah, sure. So we can take turns if you want, but what I thought about when Pluto conjuncts the sun, that's huge because the sun is your identity and the shine and the light that you came to shine to the world. And so that is, it could trigger an identity crisis, right? It will do that at the beginning. By the way, with Pluto, I only use 2 degrees orb. It's not like Jupiter.
Yeah.
It's only
Me
2
too.
degrees.
Yeah.
So, metamorphosis of image. It may be like, who am I? My old self is dying. I'm not. That's what Pluto is trying to instigate. Change in direction of life. But it can be it can be very driven and very ambitious in its pursuits. If it doesn't create an identity crisis, it will push someone to seek power, right? To be like, let's say that someone's really set in like, oh, I'm ready to do real estate and this is my thing, right? Will push them to more towards seek power in that realm.
Yeah.
But for someone,
I think
who's changing a lot, right? For someone who's like kind of at the tail end, this depends on other transits or the progress chart. If someone's at the tail end of another journey, it will trigger an identity crisis that eventually will, like, you know, instigate a new you. How do you feel about that?
I am in agreement with you. I think that what I will say as a disclaimer, and you can let me know what you think, is that it is important what the aspects are in your chart. How is the planet that Pluto is sitting on, what is the condition of that planet? I think that will make a difference as to what that particular conjunction means for you. You know, do you have supportive aspects that are there kind of celebrating this transformation, or do you have other aspects that are challenging you further, that are digging deep? So I think that this is like, I want everyone to kind of take this with a grain of salt, because it really, really, really does come down to your personal chart and how the condition of each of the planets that we're about to talk about. And, you know, just before we kind of go forward, if you do want to look at any Pluto transits upcoming, you know, in this year or otherwise that you're kind of thinking about, worrying about, both Nariana and myself do astrology readings. So you can jump on either one of our websites, whoever resonates with you, and book with us, and we can definitely guide you through anything that you are anticipating or you're thinking about. But, you know, the aspects, I think, matter when it comes to the Pluto conjunction.
Oh yeah, and you know what I would add to that? It also, you will live Pluto transits according to how Pluto is placed in your chart. So, for example, if you have Pluto square the moon or the sun or something like that, that Pluto transit will be super intense. But if you have Pluto not doing that much, you know, not squaring anything or not in an angular house, it should be a little bit more like smooth sailing. Like, for example, I have Pluto in the 6th house, which is not a super important house, and it's second to my moon. So that's probably why it wasn't super intense for me. I have had really like a lot of death and rebirth moments in my life, though, because I'm a Scorpio. But I just wanted to add that. Yeah. According to your Pluto placements, that's how you will also experience Pluto transit.
Yeah, that's interesting as well, because that's the planet that is being activated as well for you. Yeah. So back to the sun, I think definitely what you're saying about an identity crisis. I can agree with that. Like an ego death is how I would kind of look at it. You know, you're essentially an old identity, an old ego that you have identified with is dying, you know, for something to be reborn, and you're going through that process of rebirthing and recreating yourself in the world, because the sun is that creative life force. It's that creative energy of Leo. So essentially, you know, you're recreating who you are. You're rebirthing yourself intentionally into the world, which can be very powerful, and depending on your journey, your trajectory, you know, maybe something happens that forces you to recreate yourself, to reestablish yourself, and to rebirth yourself in the world. You know, something could happen, and that gives you the power to recognize, you know, your energy and your life force in a different way. So, yeah, I think Pluto on the sun can be a very significant transit, for sure.
Well, what Pluto will do is that it will destroy whatever is preventing you from evolving, right? So sometimes that's the ego, right? Sometimes that's the ego. I do see the Pluto conjunct Sun as like a huge butterfly moment, like huge. And we saw a lot of Capricorns do that in the past few years.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of Capricorns reinventing themselves because that's where Pluto was, you know, like ending careers, ending bad habits, ending anything that was preventing them from themselves and be a completely different person. So you're in for a huge transmutation, my friend.
I'll let you know how it goes. I have like all the squares on my sun, so I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the moon? How do you see Pluto conjunct the moon?
So the moon is an interesting one, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this. So just for context, I know you shared your story with us, your experience of Pluto conjuncting your MC. So I have a Capricorn stellium, and my moon is in Sagittarius. So Pluto has pretty much made its way through half of my planets.
Mm-hmm. See,
It's all that's
did
left.
a lot of the work then.
I mean, all that's left now is my sun, which is the toughest placed planet in my chart. So let's see, let's see how that goes. But the moon, I think, is an interesting one because yes, it's like your emotional body, and yes, it's your kind of private life, and yes, it's connected to, you know, it's connected to the feminine as well and the mother. So I feel like the Pluto conjunct moon has the potential here to transform your relationship with that energy, with your mother or with the maternal side of your family. Maybe, you know, changing how you connect to creative, intuitive energy within you. So it's kind of feels like a very, a, a subtle but significant transformation. It feels like, you know, you mentioned the butterfly moment of Pluto. This feels like an internal butterfly that you feel, but maybe it's not necessarily seen. It kind of just, it changes your smile a little bit. You know, it changes you from the inside out, and it changes that emotional vibration that resonates off you, because something is changing in how you connect to that receptive energy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, it's this is the thing, right? If someone's really connected to their moon, let's say,
Mm.
right? Very intuitive, very like focused on like self-care, because that's the moon, right? It can be amazingly psychic. Whoa, because the moon is
Mm-hmm.
psychic. Like the moon's like your dreams when you go to sleep. Like your a lot of your intuition comes from the moon too, and your subconscious. And so if you're already connected to the moon, um, I feel like it can be very transformative at a very deep level. But if you've been ignoring your moon, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of repressing feelings, if you've been repressing your body's needs, because the moon is the body, right? So if you've been repressing your, if you haven't been taking care of your body, if you haven't been eating well, if you haven't been sleeping well, all those things, then you will have a more intense moment with Pluto, because it will uncover, because Pluto uncover all the repressed stuff, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
Pluto will force you to like take care of that planet also, like take care of your sleep, eat better, you know, sleep longer, things like that, and because it will transform that planet.
Yeah.
So it could also mean moving, because the moon is the home, moving places. It could mean changes to your home life, and especially the mother. But that's what I'm like channeling. Again, it really comes to the relationship you have with your moon.
Yeah. Yeah. I like triggered a thought in my mind, but then I kind of got caught up in everything else you were saying. But you mentioned about like the body. And, you know, I love the moon's representation of the body, because to me, it's kind of the energetic and the emotional body. You know, it's the physical body is one thing, but the physical body is a representation of how well you are taking care of your emotional and energetic body. That is everything that's going on beneath your skin, beneath, you know, the layers. So Pluto is going to show you where you haven't been taking care of your emotional body, and where those stuck repressed feelings are, where the trauma is, where the pain is. to release it through whatever means, very Plutonic means perhaps, occult, spiritual, kind of mystic means, psychic means perhaps, to free the body and to put the power back into your body and into your well-being and your sense of security in that body, in that being that carries you around. So Pluto on the moon can be very powerful transit, I think.
Yeah,
You got to be ready for it.
Because the moon is the home and like your personal life, and I would say if anybody has an Aquarius moon, a way to manage this energy is again working with the moon, feeding that moon what it wants, according to the house. Obviously, the moon in Aquarius really needs mental stimulation. Out clean their house, do a spring cleaning, and get rid of old crap, old stuff. Throw away that ex-boyfriend, like photos and all things like that no longer serve you. Because that's what Pluto does. It clears, it will clear. So that would be giving something to Pluto to destroy in a way, right? Like, I don't need this anymore. Old clothes, old objects. I would do that. A practical way to work with Moon Pluto.
Yeah. Aquarius, I have to say, is very sentimental energy. I know that we all say that it's intellectual and it's scientific, but it is sentimental and it's quirky. So it attaches meaning through experiences onto things, onto weird like memories, weird notes, weird like words, weird songs. There is a very sentimental aspect to Aquarius. So as you're saying, kind of clearing that clutter could be a really good way to use Pluto in Aquarius if you have a moon in Aquarius. And, going a little deeper into that Aquarius moon, as you said, is intellectual, it's mentally driven, and Pluto is psychoanalysis. So, clearing away old thinking habits, old memories, old thoughts, doing the deeper, as I said, spiritual, mystic, psychic work that clears the subconscious mind of your thoughts, the ideas, the history, the stories that plague you, because you're trying to clear your full emotional body to feel more empowered. So, clearing out is a really good piece of advice there.
Yeah, I really like that, actually. I really like that concept.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard, but worth it.
Well, if I were going to say one of my favorite conjunctions of the natal planets will be Mercury, right?
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Well, because Mercury is your thought process, but also how you perceive things, right? How you hear things, your listening abilities, your speaking capabilities, your mental processes. I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated by the people who have Mercury, Pluto in their charts, right? Either like conjunctions or trines. I mean, just the depth of the thoughts, right? Just like the ability to capture the essence of something, right? It's an amazing combination for thought regeneration. Actually, thought generation of like getting rid of the old ways of thinking. Good luck if you have Mercury in Aquarius. Because these people are incredibly smart. Super. Because some
very cunning.
astrologers think that Mercury is exalted in Aquarius. I kind of agree, actually, because all the exaltations of the natal planets, if you look, are in signs that they don't rule. I'm not saying that Mercury is not strong in Virgo, but I think that Mercury is exalted in Aquarius. And so if you have Pluto coming in there, it's just like, oh my God, what you can do with your mind could be incredible. Like from writing a book to like initiating on a research project to dive deep into a new subject that fascinates you, you can get kind of obsessed with,
Yeah.
right? It could be obsessive for sure, but um, I really, really think that Pluto conjunct the Mercury is like a complete revamp on the way you think and see the world around you. But to be honest, out of all these conjunctions that we're talking about, it's the one that excites me the most.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, I just had Pluto conjunct my Mercury, so
So tell us what happened.
and I can agree. It is like a process. As we've mentioned, Pluto works in a process. It's not like instantaneous. Although, sometimes it can be, but oftentimes it is a process that begins somewhere and reaches a threshold to the point where you're like, I can no longer allow my thoughts to control me. So Pluto going onto Mercury is you realizing or recognizing, I can no longer allow these thoughts, this idea, this group, this mentality, the way that my mind currently operates, I can no longer allow it to control me, Pluto, or I can no longer allow, it to possess me or it to dictate my life, my trajectory. So it's kind of like a process that you can go through, I think, of gaining the power back in your mind, gaining the power back in recognizing the power of your conscious thoughts and subconscious thoughts, because it's Pluto. So it's activating your conscious thoughts and your subconscious thoughts to recognize or become aware of. I think, that word is a great word that you mentioned, to become aware of the power there mentally. I think in Zoroastrianism, that's an ancient Persian religion, their whole philosophy is based around good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And it's important, the order of that is really important, because your thoughts, produce the words that you speak, create the reality that you live. So, Pluto on Mercury gives you that power back to see, where are you creating the reality around you by what you're saying and by what you're thinking, and how is your community, your network, the people that you connect to and the way that you communicate and connect to them, how is that creating more of your reality? So I think there's a lot of power in recognizing, what you are capable of using your mind and your thoughts alone. So, Pluto in Mercury can be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But I think once again, it's like, it's not necessarily an easy transit, because it's Pluto. So it's activating, or it's digging in to activate the subconscious and activate, things that are lurking beneath the surface that create maybe a habitual pattern of speaking. Mercury also is like your habits and the routine in which you think, and where do you allow your mind track to just go unconsciously or subconsciously without being mindful that you're running that loop again. So
Right.
Pluto will kind of get to breaking that loop whatever way that it can.
Yeah, it'll break all the patterns that are preventing you from embracing a forward thinking type of mentality, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're stuck in that, you're missing out, because literally the world is changing so much that if we are not actualizing the way we think, we're not only going to stay behind, we're going to suffer a little bit. I mean, just think about how much change humanity's going to experience in the next 20 years. And so it's time to destroy those old ways of thinking, not only about yourself, but society and everything. So,
Yeah. And I want to mention as well, Pluto on Mercury can also, and this is like very You know, it's a little bit more mundane, I guess, but Pluto can bring about a community that can really help to transform you. You might engage in a new kind of group of people, a new community, particularly with it in Aquarius. It could be a new group of people that are like-minded, that empower each other, that, you know, provide a platform for transformation. So there is opportunity there to also kind of work together with different types of people, or a new community that you engage in through technology, maybe, because we are looking at Aquarius, through social media, maybe, you know, as well, because we have
Yeah,
Mercury.
for
So
sure, for sure.
it could be a new community that helps and facilitates that change for you. And I think that's a great way to use Pluto on Mercury, is not to try to maybe do it alone, because you have that Aquarian energy and you have the Mercurial energy that's like, let's do it together.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Okay, so now Venus, Pluto conjunct
Venus.
Venus. Whew.
Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, Venus is pleasure above anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when Pluto is the conjunct Venus, I don't know. I'm a Scorpio. I just think it's a very kinky combination. It is all the dark pleasures, sex toys, kinky things, because that's what Pluto wants. Pluto is a very sexual energy. We didn't say that, but this is the perfect
Mm-hmm.
way to say that. Pluto is consume me, you
I
know.
feel
It's
like I know too much about you now. I'm just kidding.
TMI. No, but seriously though, I mean, when Pluto conjuncts Venus, it's just going to be like all of a sudden things that you were not even interested to try in the bedroom will interest you. And the truth is that you should feed that in the healthiest of ways. Because if it doesn't, it looks for it in a way that it's unhealthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to give Pluto what it wants, which is like a lot of sexual attention. But it's not sexual of like one night stand kind of thing. It's like really like merging on a soul level. And I think that Aquarius is a good placement for it actually, because like it's future forward and it's like experimental and it can be a lot of fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like if you don't feed it, it can backfire in like manipulation with like
Mm-hmm.
relationships and like friendships and because Pluto is social. I mean, because Venus is social interaction. Venus is your friendships also, not just your romances. It's like social interactions. And so I really believe that this is a very experimental time that can be fun if you are open-minded and you like embrace, right? This type of energy. I also think that if Pluto conjuncts your Venus, you will completely change your style, right? The way you
Mm-hmm.
dress, the way you look, because that's what Venus is. Venus rules your aesthetic in like the aesthetic you're attracted to, but also
Mm-hmm.
how you dress. Like maybe you will not become goth, but you will wear more black, or you will wear more like mystical clothes and just like more mysterious, you know, will give you a more mysterious allure, you know. So that's like the highest vibration, right? In the lowest vibration, manipulation in relationships, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
um you doing them or being done to you. So it can go both ways. And that's why I believe that feeding Pluto what it wants, which is like depth and excitement and experimental sexual interactions, is better than having it being in a way that feels negative, right?
So yes, this is kind of a personal comment, but um, yeah, the Libra, the transition between the nodes will definitely kind of play into what's going on with what we're talking about right now, with relationships and everything. But yes, I can definitely agree with you with everything that you've said, and I love that perspective actually about the kind of like seductress and the kind of sexy side of Pluto conjunct Venus. I've also had Pluto conjunct my Venus. So I'm telling you, I've lived through all of this so far. Um, and it is, I think, not just for me, but for in general, analyzing this conjunction, I think you're right to say that leaning into that kind of really intimate side of Pluto and Venus can open your mind up to new experiences, sensual, sexual experiences. But what I do want to mention with Pluto on Venus is that it is, as I said, as I think I've said a few times, such a unknowing energy. So you could meet somebody when Pluto is conjunct your Venus. And I would really caution you to be hyper aware of that person, their history, their baggage, because Pluto conjunct Venus, as you said, it's relationships. It can bring about very significant transformational relationships into your life. Now, whether that is significant in a positive way, it turns your life around, you're investing together, you're doing big things together, sure. It can also be like a very unhealthy, manipulative, obsessive, possessive relationship that really pulls you
Oh
down
yeah.
into the darkest space of your soul, into a space that you didn't know that was lurking, because it brings these kinds of relationship experiences into your life. And the upside of this is that, as you've mentioned, it's pulling you through the dirt. It needs you to get through that experience in order to recognize the baggage, in order to recognize what you have suppressed that is limiting you perhaps from attracting what you want. The Venus energy is like attracting, receptive. It sits in its feminine. So what is not allowing you to sit in that energy? So Pluto will expose that through perhaps a relationship or through some kind of a sexual encounter, something that really shakes you to your subconscious and forces you to look at what's behind the curtain.
No,
And then
sure,
once you,
because I do think I agree with you. Um, Pluto Venus is like the most obsessive compulsive, um, handled wrongly, right? It's the most
mm-hmm,
obsessive compulsive combination for relationships. So, you know, um, what I've seen is like if a relationship is moving way too fast during
oh
the
yes,
time that you have Pluto
yeah,
conjunct
good one.
Venus, there's something wrong. So all of a sudden you're like sleeping together every night and they're like, you know,
Talking about like,
in
yeah,
your house every day and then they're telling you what to do. That's when you know that the dark side of Pluto is at play. And by the way, just to make sure that I'm like totally like clear on what I was saying of like exploring your kinky side and all of that, it's in a safe environment. It's
mm-hmm,
not in an environment where you're feeling pushed to do
mm-hmm,
it. Because the moment you're feeling pushed to do it, you're on the dark side of Pluto.
yeah, 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 or you're being controlled, or someone's kind of forcing that upon you. That's that
That
negative
is
side of Pluto. But
definitely the negative side of Pluto. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
but through that, if you're able to hold on to that glimmer of the hidden riches, the hidden treasure, and the power that is beneath that experience, then you're able to completely regenerate and transform how you attract love and and relationships in your life. You could completely transform your partnership, you know, your commitments, your everything that connects you to other people. So it can be, you know, I like Pluto Venus, but once again, it depends on your chart. But I think it can be like a very empowering transit that really shows you your the energy that you have, the beauty that you have, the kind of power that you have to create and attract what it is that you want. But whatever is resisting, whatever is that resistant energy is going to come up through a relationship experience or through a friendship experience, or maybe a crisis in terms of like how you want to dress yourself, how you think about your body, how you think about pleasure. And I want to mention Venus also about money. You
Right.
know, I think Pluto can also transform your income. You know, if you have been earning money in one certain industry for however long, then Pluto on your Venus can really bring about like a change in how you attract wealth, how you use your skills in a different industry or a different way. And so there can be a transformation both romantically, interpersonally, but also financially. So it is a really, really interesting and like layered
Oh yeah.
conjunction.
Can be shown in so many different areas of your life, you know, because Venus
Yeah.
Venus rules so much. Venus rules so many,
Yeah.
right? Um, but at the end of the day, it's like, do you hold your own power? How
Mm-hmm.
how do you, what's your connection to your power? Do you have it, or does other person need to show it to you, right? Because relationships are mirrors. So
Mm.
the power dynamics in relationships are definitely something that Pluto will expose and transform, right?
Yeah.
During the time it's
Yeah.
near Venus. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got the last one, Mars.
Mars.
I gotta say, that's my least favorite one. Just because Mars is intense, Pluto is
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
Um, Pluto will infuse the way you go after things, your ambition, your drive. Depending on the, well, Mars, I guess Mars would be in Aquarius. So I guess it doesn't have to be that intense. What do you think? Where's your Mars? Also in Aquarius in Capricorn, or?
My Mars is in Taurus,
Oh,
exactly squaring my sun. So, you know, I'm telling you, this Pluto on my sun is going to be interesting. But yeah, I've already had Uranus on my on my Mars, so I'm sure I'll get through it. But Pluto on Mars, I think is a tricky one to discuss because I feel like it's like amplifying the plutonic energy. So I
yeah.
can't decide if it's good or if it's bad. And I'm sure there are different ways to view it. And nothing is bad, you know, I take that word back. But, you know, it's just kind of blowing up that Mars energy to the nth degree. So it kind of makes me feel like, could this actually be a good transit? This is the one that I haven't experienced,
Mm.
but it's making me feel like Pluto is bringing the hidden power for you to pursue your desires. You know, the hidden kind of, what's it called? Like when you go into like a new gear, it's like a new gear
Oh, yeah.
shift, and you're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how did I get that energy? Where did that come from? Where did that drive come from? So it feels almost a little bit like that, where Pluto is unlocking like a different gear, like I don't know, what was in Fast and Furious, the Noush switch, and you're just like zooming ahead towards what you want and passionately and with sex appeal and, with this fire in your eyes. So to me, it feels a little bit like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts
I
on
think it's
that?
very extreme. You know,
Yeah.
it can be really positive and it can be really negative, and you decide,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that it amplifies your ambition, Like if you're working towards a goal, it can help you. You know, what I wrote was shedding old skin to renew our sense of ambition. So you will, because Mars rules ambition, you will change completely
Mm-hmm.
the way you go after your after your desires. Um, it can be amazing for overcoming obstacles, right?
Mm-hmm.
If something that has been standing in your way, but it can make you ruthless. You know, it can
Yes.
make you very magnetic. Think about Scorpios. I'm not saying that because I'm,
Yeah.
but I do,
But it's true.
I do think that Scorpios are magnetic because of the relationship, because of the rulership of Mars and Pluto. Right?
Yeah.
And we see that in a lot of powerful people that are Scorpios that just have these really, they're magnetic. They attract. It's easy for them to attract because like,
Mm.
so it can make you very magnetic, but it can make you very ruthless, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the pursuit of your goals. So, and we all know that ruthless isn't good. So it's a tricky. I think out of all of these combinations, that's the trickiest to master
Yeah,
because
I
all
agree.
of a sudden you feel this deep need for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
certain for being powerful, for being successful, or for being ahead, or for winning, right? Just like, wow. And it can be impulsive. So luckily, you know, the fixed sign of Aquarius makes it less, but who knows, because it's Uranus, right? So it's like, it
Yeah.
can make you impulsive if you're not careful, but it can make you overcome immense obstacles you handle.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I think it's very black and white.
Yeah, I agree. And, with it in Aquarius, I think if you have Pluto coming up on your Mars, you could be one of those people that is starting the fight, starting the war on the streets. You could be the voice that is coming out and has decided enough is enough. You could be one of these revolutionary change makers. So particularly with it being in Aquarius, I think your soul is ready to spark change, to spark, your soul is the one hitting the threshold
Right.
and saying enough is enough. We're ready to take the power back, or ready to fight for our desires, fight for the truth, fight to bring, the secrets to light. So it feels like there's a lot of power to this particular transit,
And
with it being in
I
Aquarius.
think it's like a, and you know, you have to take all the other chart, the placements into consideration.
Yes, of
But if
course.
you're a person who has lacked a little bit of like, if you're a person who needs that push, right, to like
Mm-hmm.
set bound, Mars rules boundaries too. Mars is the one that says this is where the
Yeah.
boundary is, right? So it's like, if you have lacked drive to like have established boundaries, if you've like drive to go after your goals, if you've lacked that spark, like you were saying, you can
Yeah, the
really use
confidence.
this. Yeah, you can really use this to your advantage. But if you're already a little impulsive, if you're already a little intense, then you need to tone it down, because the Pluto is only going to magnify that intensity. And so scaling it back, right? Edit.
Yeah.
um, on that intensity. So I really think that it's pretty black and white, but it can be pretty good if you know how
Yeah.
to handle it.
Yeah, it's like getting a lot of power in your hands and not knowing what to do with it. So you kind of, got to figure it out a little bit. Got to figure out how to sit in that strength, or sit in that confidence, or, sit in that challenge, because Pluto is showing you that your soul is ready to face that challenge, whatever it is that Mars is kind of bringing about, whatever you kind of need to face squarely, or to have an opinion about, or to assert yourself with. So, Pluto is saying you're ready. You're ready to transform how you fight, how you address challenging situations. And I want to add to it as well. You mentioned with Venus and Pluto, there is that kind of sensual, kind of intimacy kind of being stirred up with that conjunction. But I would say that's also here with the Mars conjunction. Pluto Mars, that's also,
Oh yeah.
very spicy, hot and heavy experiences to kind of tread lightly,
Oh.
use your discernment,
Mm-hmm.
use that analytical, plutonic kind of mental energy to make sure you're discerning, before you're embarking, or before you're kind of getting into those kinds of intimate encounters and
Yeah. I
pleasure
actually,
filled
I actually
experiences.
think that Mars can bring out more intense relationships too than the Venus.
Yeah.
Because, also, I think that in career, right? Um,
Mm.
because we use a lot of Mars in like our careers, like how we go after things.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's super important to keep integrity when Pluto is conjunct your Mars. Keep
To
your
keep what?
to keep your
Integrity.
integrity,
Yeah. Yeah.
to keep your integrity, because like with such a strong force pushing you forward, succeed, that's Pluto on Mars. So it's like,
Mm.
keep your integrity, like it's not worth it, right? Especially if it's with dealing with like powerful people, Plutonian people,
Mm.
right? People who have power over you at work and things like that. It can be dangerous. So this is the one combination that I would say, steer away from people who feel like could like be a little dangerous, like in because
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love
Pluto
that.
on Mars does that, yeah, maybe they're alluring, and very magnetic, but you have to keep your integrity when Pluto is on your Mars for sure.
Yeah, I think you've said so many like perfect things there, like integrity with the Aquarius transit, so important. Aquarius is all about standing on its kind of moral integrity, you know. So definitely fighting with integrity, fighting the good fight, but also, discerning people who are like snake charmers in your life, but trying to get to the bottom of what they're saying, getting to the bottom of their intentions, their actions. And when you're talking about Mars and Pluto and that drive and that excitement, it just made me think of like someone with blinders on, just like running forward, like looking ahead and just so excited about this like winning this, doing that, achieving this, and gaining this clout or this success or this power. And it's kind of like, what are you kind of destroying along the way? What are you neglecting along the way? Because this is like impulsive and fast paced manipulation, and also a drive and a thirst, like a hunger for power and a hunger for
Mm-hmm.
more. It's like a really greed. It feels like there's a lot of greed in this particular conjunction. So I feel like, yeah, that integrity piece will be really, really relevant with it being in Aquarius. So definitely engaging that psychoanalytical energy of Pluto to help you get to the success and get to, whatever it is you're trying to, the riches that you're trying to gain, but get to it with integrity,
Mm-hmm.
with maintaining your truth, maintaining connection to others as well, and not just kind of focusing on yourself and your achievements and your desires kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, for sure. One of the notes I put was like, avoid dominating others, but instead
Mm.
trying to help them, coming from a position
Yeah, I love
of
that.
like the opposite of selfishness. It's like, how can I make things better for everybody, especially in Aquarius, right? Because it's the sign of
Yeah,
the people. So not
yeah.
thinking about your gains, but how your work can help thousands or millions of people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, dominating is a great word. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the rise of the dominatrix, the person who has Pluto conjunct Mars.
Oh yeah, Dominic
But
probably do have. Mars conjunct Pluto or Mars square Pluto.
And on that note,
On that note,
that's the last planet. So I think that's the kind of those are the main planets we wanted to cover, I think.
yes, I think that's good.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I think we I think we did it. So yay!
that's it.
We managed to talk a very touchy planet,
Yeah,
and one that has a ton of gray area.
yeah.
Um, very black and white, very extreme. So
Mhm.
it's up to us, and it is up to us. And I love what you said about bringing the psychoanalysis. Like, why am I doing this? Why
Mhm.
am I funding this way? I think those questions are important to ask again and again and again when you're having a Pluto transit.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And especially in Aquarius as well, questioning is okay. Aquarius is a sign of questioning. It's, why is the statement that Aquarius loves to ask and loves to know why. So it's a very curious sign. So I think it's definitely good to be asking, good to be, curious and not kind of just allowing life to happen to you, but rather kind of taking the power back and recognizing where the power is kind of being handed back to you so that you can direct your life as opposed to, the waves, the riptide of Pluto just carrying you along.
Right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course.
I I wonder if anybody here has any like quick questions, we could answer them, but if not, then I will let you go. I know I have no idea what the time is, so I don't even know how long it's been, but
It's been
we'll give you a
forever.
moment.
Yeah, it's been really fun though.
Yeah, this is a really fun conversation. I knew I would love talking about this with you. And, I love kind of talking about this particular transit because it's such a long transit. I feel like there's so many speculations.
Oh yeah.
And to me, I'm just so curious about, what those speculations
Well,
are. Being an
maybe we
Aquarius, I'm
can
just
do
like,
a
what do you think?
recap in a couple of years. Um,
Oh,
it could be fun, maybe
yeah.
whenever we see that Pluto is going to be really highlighted in the news, or we could do something fun later on, once we've had a little bit of time, you know,
Yeah.
to I think a couple of years would work. We can like go
Yeah. Well,
back and then see what we were saying and
yeah. Yeah. I think that'll be fun. Once we've survived the apocalypse, I shouldn't laugh. And now the world is going to end tomorrow. What have I done? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But that was awesome. So I don't think we have any questions. So I will let you go. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, maybe this will be a Pluto series.
Maybe, could be.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.